May I introduce you?
Yes, please do.
My name is Mr. 2020. This is my dear friend Christopher R. Nelson. I call him Chris. He wrote a book called The Dreaming Gods that I have just finished yesterday and enjoyed tremendously. So I want to thank you for writing it and sending me a copy because I'll be honest, I never get around to buying books unless they're very practical and tactical. And your book was practical and tactical for me. I think everything is, but it was also a really tremendous peek inside of you and a lovely, gentle experience of a gentleman exploring truth and expansion. So I think that's going to apply to a lot of people that I know. So I'd strongly suggest your book, The Dreaming Gods by Christopher R. Nelson.
Yep, I had to choose Christopher R. Nelson because I wanted to differentiate from the Chris R's and the Chris Nelsons and the Chris everything. So,
Yeah, nice. I didn't bother giving myself a middle initial, so I can't do that.
yeah, I don't know what to say. 2020. Uh, well, thank you. That's great. I'm glad that you finished it. How did you, any impressions that don't spoil the gist of it for anybody else who might want to read it?
Yeah, so I'll put it in my language. Your protagonist experiences the world much more vividly and much more alive along the way, and he also experiences a lot more than localized experience.
Yeah.
And it really reminded me that I always wasn't this way. In a way, I always was, but along the way, I've had to open up. Not had to. Good lord. And along the way, I've opened up a lot, and I just realized how alive this world is for me, and the sadness that I experience when I notice that for a lot of people, they don't experience the vividness or the oneness or the connectedness uh, that I do.
That's really good. Yeah. It's funny because I thought when I was writing this as a writer that I needed to work on my descriptions because I would read, Dostoevsky or other great writers who are like, describing every corner of the table in the room and everything. And I just sort of felt like I was lacking in that. I'm not even sure if I was, but I probably was. So I really started working on my descriptions like that. And there was no thought that, oh, life is incredibly rich and miraculous, and every little detail is relevant in a way. Uh, but now I feel that way, not as a consequence of writing the book, but as a consequence of just slowing down and seeing more of life. I guess slowing down mentally actually feeds me up, engages me more with life. And I guess I hadn't thought about that in relation to the descriptions in the book, but yeah, that's cool.
I love relevance. Uh, they say West Virginia that everyone's got a cousin Jilly, and cousin Jilly is everyone's cousin. And I think about in NLP, they have the phrase, uh, your mind is faster than you think. And I sort of run with that in some different ways, but I notice when we really tap into the speeds that we are, it also helps us notice how slow thinking is and how quiet we really are.
Yeah.
I never find that I need to quiet my brain. I just find I get to notice it's just a little 9-inch black and white television set turned to static in the corner with rabbit ears that I just don't have to pay attention to. You know, like when it's not useful, I don't.
Well, when you perceive like the garden at your house or something, like what do you think it's an operation? Are you like embracing the vision? Is it moving into you or through you, or like if that question makes any sense.
Yeah, when I'm not compressed, I had a psych nurse years ago. She used to come visit me a couple times a month, and as a client, and she said to me one day, we stopped, we were walking down to East Park in Connellsville. She goes, I don't mean to offend you, but I really want to tell you something. And I said, what is that? And she said, you move like a blind man. And I noticed that you tend to notice just about everything. And I told her, I says, I see through my eyes, but I also seem to see from everywhere all at once.
Yeah.
And so I sit in the garden here and I just notice that I feel from everywhere all at once. Oh, but if I'm compressed, it's instant hell.
Yeah. Yeah. Know what you mean. It's very easy for me to get compressed sometimes. Um, but I also I had a time like that where I was sitting in the garden and I just seemed to slow down. I don't know if that's the right word, but I became aware of everything. I was watching a bee buzzing in the lavender, and I was
Yes.
at this massive tree nearby, and I sort of felt something just kind of inside me kind of slip just a little bit casually, and I suddenly felt like I was almost part of the tree and part of everything that was happening, and it was pretty darn cool. I don't know if I can swear on your podcast. It was pretty darn cool.
Well, if I can, you can.
Okay, it's pretty fucking. uh, yeah, yeah.
I was asked to lead a ceremony about 10 days ago, or 2 weeks ago. Uh, and so we did what most people call sweat lodge here. And I hadn't done one in this country. I've been here for, let's say, 15 years. And when we did it, I talked for about 45 minutes before, laid down some of the mythology and the cosmology. I love the way you explore that in your book. And I just shared a little bit about here's the cosmology. We've got four directions. So we've got four directions, and we've got a fable that I refer to often, and I shared some bits from that, and why we do 4 rounds in the sweat lodge, quote unquote. I don't like the word sweat lodge. I was taught the Stone People's Lodge.
I like.
Are you? And the what was the question? My alarm went off. And it just
Oh, well, we were talking about nature blending into the in.
yes, yes. And so I mentioned, yeah, and I can horribly pronounce anything in any language. Wonkan Tonka and Tonkashila. Uh, since most of the Eastern spiritual practices were destroyed, uh, stuff from the Lakota and other associated tribes has reached out to the different tribes across the nation in America. And Wonkan Tonka meant the spirit, the one spirit that moves through all things. And it was only after the missionaries that we needed to have uh, the misuse of sage. So when I talk about 4 directions, 4 seasons, 4 gates, 4 happy chemicals, for anything, I'm always referencing this. And so we start with tobacco, which is the plant of the East, which is an opening and uplifting experience. I'm smoking a Rocky Patel right now as we speak. And then the plant of the West is sage. And sage is not for dispelling bad juju. Sage is a plant that holds energy, quote unquote, that holds, more accurately, the essence or a spirit. And so we cook with sage to make meat or food last longer. Another one of the sacred plants traditionally is cedar. Cedar is the plant of movement. It moves from small to big, for example. And so you use pine sol to kill little critters that could kill big critters, that make things that would make you sick. So we use pine sol. The pines and the cedars all have that ability of movement. And the other plant is sweetgrass, which is woven, it smolders, and it symbolizes wisdom, the wisdom teachings, the buffalo, the north. Going way, way back to your experience, I've really gone on a nice tangent. There were no plans to do combat. All plants are good. They have purposes. They restore balances, and so we didn't have the need for separation from the tree or the coyote or the other tribal members. We noticed we were all different. We had different camps, but we didn't have to be at war with anything. And so, when Chris experiences what he is as the spirit that moves through all things, the one spirit, there's no good or bad. When you're really aware of you, you can't help but be peaceful and feel a oneness with the tree and me.
Yeah. It's interesting because it seems slightly paradoxical. Like you pay attention, you slow down, and you become aware of multiple things that you weren't aware of before. But somehow that consciousness of the diverse environment around you sort of blends into a single flow, blends into a single one. And so that multiplicity makes you aware gradually of your oneness with everything.
Nice. I love seeming paradox.
It's really nice. Yeah.
When I came across you using the words cosmology and mythology, I just had to giggle. Yeah, these are two things that I adore, but I didn't have the word cosmology, I don't believe, before I read it in your.
Yeah, it took me a little while to get that, but that was years ago. I've become very comfortable with the word cosmology.
I like it. I do. In some of the group calls I've shared, we've got cultures built on space and cultures built on time. And neither one's wrong, but it might be useful to explore which one you really don't factor into your culture.
Well, tell me more, like what's a culture built on time, for example?
Yours and mine, the
Yeah.
predominant culture.
And then a culture built on space.
A culture built on space notices. So, culture built on time will say I slowed down or speeded up.
Uh-huh.
That's a culture built on time. I'm sorry. A culture built on time would have you say I slowed down or speeded up based on time measurement. Space would be Chris notices his magnitude, his size. Wow.
Yeah, I get that. I get that. I mean, maybe I get it in a different way, but that sense of awareness unfolding from who you are, or I
Like
mean, sensing yourself in space as an object in space and sensing other objects in space around you. Like sometimes, am I on the right track?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
just noticed that so when you and I chat, I notice there are different sizes of you that show up, and there are
Yeah.
times when we're sharing the same space, and every now and then we'll either one of us would disappear for a moment. We'll go somewhere else.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't know what to say except that it's interesting because it strikes me as unusual when I do get a sense of space. Time is easy, right? We're locked into time, but space, a sense of space occurs to me only when I slow down, if I can say that.
So when
Uh,
your size changes, you notice speed differently.
there you go. You could say that too. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Good.
yeah, I did. But we really on we did a group call over the weekend, and I mentioned English being a subject predicate verb language has us organize experience into subject, predicate, verb, pretty much no matter what. Some other languages aren't organized that way. And so they organize experience in their way.
Which is really interesting because language, of course, shapes reality for us, shapes our experience a lot. Yeah. And I guess it reflects it. It's a synergistic or yeah. What's the word? Reciprocal relationship.
It, it sure is an entertaining one.
Yeah. Yeah. That's one of the things in 1984 book, the idea behind Big Brother speak or whatever they call it. I forget what it's called, but anyway, if you reduce the vocabulary and you limit what people can say, then you limit how they can think.
So,
And
so I noticed I knew sooner or later we'd bump into Neville Goddard.
yeah,
In the Neville Goddard groups, we talk about good states and bad states and being positive versus being negative. And I always try to explore and explain. I don't buy any of that. It's too simple. Because am I in a positive state or a negative state? I'd rather notice, am I in a happy, loving husband state, or right now in a happy, loving teacher and happy, loving friend state? If we just go to his 20 in a good mood or not, it's just that if we just limit the vocabulary to the philosophy of opposites, we're pretty damn screwed. Because what's the opposite of pepper?
right. Well, it's obviously salt, but anyway,
Well, so black pepper and pink salt.
cut it out. No, um, yeah, I have the Shakespeare phrase. There's nothing good nor bad, but thinking makes it so. Comes to me. Um, and I forget what I was going to say. So you go for it.
Beauty. Do you forget by going smaller or bigger?
A lot of times I forget because I am allowing myself to just listen. This time I forgot because I think I tried to hold on to it for too long, and and then I said something else in between. So I think I forget when I tried too hard to organize, which is probably a version of going smaller.
Cool. I'd say you do it both ways. Organizing probably sounds, when I try that on here, it feels like a smaller. But listening, I get that you are a vast listener, and that would be big to me.
Yeah. When I listen, you're right, but that's right. If I just drop into listening, then I'm not trying to hold on to things, but they just float around still. So they
Yeah.
can naturally occur to me.
Inside the vastness of you.
Yeah. Yeah. Listening is something that I and it's almost a cliche that people talk about now how powerful listening is, but it took me a little while to really, really feel it. But it's such a relief to just listen sometimes and to not feel like you have to solve your problems or the philosophical problem or someone else's problem, just to be present to what is. Uh, Sometimes that's its own solution, if that's not too, yeah, yeah.
The clever part of me goes, what's a solution? A solution is taking some small things and dissolving them into a big thing.
Very nice. Yeah.
Like pink salt. I get Murray River salt here, Chris. So years and years ago they told me I had high blood pressure whenever I was going to I had to go to the immigration doctors to immigrate to Australia because they wanted to, before they'd give me not citizenship, residency, they wanted to make sure I wasn't going to have a stroke and become dependent on the system.
Right.
So I went in and I had a 10 o'clock appointment or something like that, and I got in at 1:30, and I'm sitting in this white room. hospital white with 6 TVs, 200,000 million people. Uh, and they're like coughing and sneezing on each other and speaking in bullshit. And I'm a prompt kind of guy. Yeah, I'm an early kind of guy. You and I started half an hour early because we could. I'm an earlier prompt guy. And so now I'm like an hour and a half, 2 hours late, and I'm pissed. And I go back, and the first thing they do is they put me through the eye test. And I walk in, and they said, read the lowest line you can. And I said, DEFPOTEC. And the guy says, we don't use the American chart. How about this time you look at it? And I said, okay. And that was fun, but I was still pissed. I went to the next one, and the lady sat me down and did my blood pressure, and she's like, "It's mildly high." And she did it again, and she goes, "Correct. I've never seen blood pressure this high."
Wow.
And I said, "Well, I've been sitting out there. I'm a professional. When I say 10 o'clock, I mean 10 o'clock, not 1:30." And so they sent me to a doctor and all that bullshit. And the doctor said, uh, "Use margarine and then cut back on salt, and come back in 3 weeks."
That fast, huh? Yeah.
Well, I went back and I decided I'm just going to test normal, which I did, which was great fun. But I also noticed my temptation to cut back on salt, which I did. My friend Dr. Ken said that's bullshit. Eat as much salt as you want, but eat some good salt. And so it's years and years later now, and I eat this stuff called Murray River salt. It's pink salt from Australia, and I just love it. And I don't know if I love it because it's from Australia or it's just yummy or all those things. But since I'm not afraid of salt and I'm really enjoying salt, I don't seem to have a problem with this yummy salt that I enjoy. By the way, I can't eat normal salt. I've tried. I don't like the way it tastes. And I just wonder how much of our life uh, really could come down to smell and taste tests when it comes to connecting with humans or even expressing ourselves. I I've never been in person with you, but you really uh, when I'm exposed to you, I experience very good visceral smell and taste of you. That you're a breath of fresh air, in other words, and I always leave with like a sweet taste in my mouth. It's part of the gift you give to the world. Uh, some people could misread this into whatever they want to misread this into, but I just wonder how often can we be a breath of fresh air for ourselves and others, and how often we can uh, leave each other with good taste in our mouths.
Yeah.
And I want to go back to your book. You did so well with that. The relationships in that book. It was literally ready sweet to me.
You know, it was influenced a lot by Colin Wilson, a British writer, in terms of, I don't know, somehow the flow or the energy. I love his books for that. Things are constantly moving in a positive, not in a positive way, like always positive things happening, but they're always shifting. And I hope that you get a good sense of character and life and flow. And yeah, that people have capability and agency. And I think I like that because we often don't feel that way in life, but it's more readily available than we think. Am I making any sense here?
Yeah,
No.
you invited me into a world that expresses a lot. Uh, and a lot of people I hang out with aren't that expressive. They're really edited. Uh,
Because
some
life
pe-
is
Go ahead.
fascinating. It's
Yeah.
because everything is fascinating, you know. So much of life is fascinating. If you probably know that I edit book. You know that I edit books. I edit other people's books, and that was such a great experience for me to start really paying attention to other people's worlds and to find ways to facilitate them expressing what they see and hear and think, because it sort of gave me an appreciation for people that I didn't really have before that, a sense of everybody having a story to tell and life being, even in the smallest moments, rich. And it's like what we're talking about with meaning. Like you can sense meaning in the bee buzzing in the lavender, or like that sense of the flow of life. And you mentioned it too at the beginning of the conversation, the surf, like the ups and downs. It's like I feel like you surf on the surface of life with an awareness of depths below you, and you you have some degree of consciousness of it, but you can't really know it all, so you kind of have to go with it in a way. And that that sort of seems to me to be the strange thing that opens up when you pay more attention to what's going on. Not paying attention, you know what I mean? Like paying attention in a present, being present kind of way. You sense that sort of pulse or flow more clearly, and that you're a part of it.
Yes. I love pairing up weird opposites. And you gave me a weird opposite.
Go for it.
So what's the opposite of fear? It would seem to me the opposite of fear is fascination.
Okay.
Having been a horribly shy kid growing up, I would walk home. I started walking to school in fourth grade because I went from being a teenage bedwetter to pissing myself at the bus stop
Mm.
uh, as well.
Wow.
Just got picked on. I was terrified, and I figured, well, if I don't go to the bus stop, I won't pee my pants. So school would let out. I'd go pee, and I'd walk home. It was great fun, and and so I was reading some books like Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People and stuff. And okay, because I was painfully shy,
Yeah.
and I think it was Napoleon Hill talked about goal setting, and making a plan, and that's where I was at that stage of my development. So I got a little notebook that would fit in my pocket with my pens, and every day I'd put the date on top, and I'd put the numbers 1 through 5, and every day I'd make myself talk to a human. And so every day I'd make myself talk to a human. And I would walk into the store and I would look at something, like let's say ink pens. And the lady would come over, "Can I help you?" And I'd say, "Do you have any ink pens?"
Ah,
And she would say, "Yes, they're right there." And I'd say, "Thank you." And I'd get out my little notebook and tick off, you know, the number one and go to the next store. I was that weird little kid.
it reminds me of the exercise from your Dream Driven Day program. But
Yeah, no shocker, right?
yeah, 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 that's good. But go ahead, please.
So it took me a while, but one day I discovered if I'm absolutely fascinated with humans, including me, there's no way I can fear them.
Mm.
And what a totally different world. Uh,
I, I like that a lot. Yeah.
yeah. I notice when I'm fascinated with writing, I can take any one of the 11 books or so I'm currently writing and find myself nuts like with what I write that day because I'm fascinated with how I'll weave it together and also if I'll like it tomorrow. But if I'm fearful if I'm ever going to write it or say the right thing, it just doesn't flow. But if I'm fascinated with how am I going to share my expression today, uh, and if I'm fascinated with, I wonder what Chris and I will do, I think it'll be a pretty damn good call.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a certain sense of you lose yourself a little bit in fascination. I mean, not in a bad way, but you in the way that you
Yes.
step aside from your self-conscious, you know. I gave a talk to some coaches once, and I was a little bit nervous about it, and I realized my biggest enemy is going to be me. So if someone asked me a question or something, I probably could just start rambling on and on. But if I have to like prepare something and talk for 20 minutes, uh, then I'm going to be too self-conscious. I did the same. I gave this talk in England last summer, and it was interesting to be up talking and knowing that I could be the one to fuck it up. I was the only one who could potentially mess it all up if I just sat there and started thinking about myself. But if I was just really interested and let the material carry me and just spoke what I had there, and so I knew I needed to sort of remain fascinated and interested in the topic. And the same thing happened when I wrote a paper on the talk. Like I had to maintain my interest in. I couldn't just say like I'm going to write it like A B C D E F G and outline. I had to sort of go with wherever my interest took me in order to sort of let that slip into the writing. I mean, it's possible too that if you have something you have to write about, you can discover the interest in it simply by starting the work, and then that stream can pick you up and carry you along. But the point I think is that if you can lose yourself, your small, lovely, egoic self, just sort of let it loosen the reins a little bit and slip into fascination or interest, everything is a lot more fun.
In the world of process, I discover, yeah, even during our chat, how many different sizes of me can show up during our time together.
Well, tell me more about the sizes.
So I'm fascinated with you as a human, as a friend, as a client, as a compadre, all those things. I'm fascinated with uh, me, and I know a lot of people don't like to even admit that, but I am fascinated with me.
Mm.
Uh, I also get to be fascinated with uh, the dance that we have. If I'm one and you're one, and together we make 11, and so now we're gonna what can come up while you and I chat. I suspect is going to be 11 times more interesting than if it's just me or just you. This is Mr. 2020 math. The accountant doesn't like it. I do.
Mm.
The But during all that, so there's you and there's me. There's the size I feel I am. There's the size I feel you are, and then there's the size of us. And then there's the ripples that come from anything that we talk about. And as they ripple out, the circle gets bigger. And we can invite anything to it. And so the sizes that are available to us, as well as just noticing there are times during our conversation here I've gotten pretty small, and there are
Yeah.
times where I've gotten pretty big.
Yeah.
And in a world where, oh, I can't believe I just talked for 15 minutes. We only got 10 minutes left. Or I hope I don't hold you back. Well, the only reason someone ever says that is if they know they are. Uh, but I don't want to be there, and they don't want to be there either.
Mm.
Uh, Even if it's just for a passing second of smallness. But just being willing to notice in any point in time a quick scan of not how much time do I have left in this day or life or conversation, but noticing like how big am I?
Yeah, I really understand what you're saying now. I really resonate with it because I do tend to do those small things, those uh, uh, you know, ask for qualify something that I'm saying, or ask for, apologize for
Yes.
talking too long or something, or for perceiving, talking too long. And it's bullshit in a way sometimes because um,
It seems like it shows up when we get stuck on a size.
us, yeah, yeah, yeah. And and then instead of just running with it, instead of just riding the wave without thinking, I'll start thinking and stumble over my own thoughts. If I can mix metaphors there, it,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
It's interesting too because even in the course of this conversation, you know, I'm relatively relaxed here, but I'm also conscious of the fact that we're recording this, and um,
Yes.
we have we want to keep a steady flow of conversation, but that very awareness of wanting to do something is what uh, makes me bump into, makes me less natural, of course. And but it's also interesting too because then you get a sense of what you need to do to sort of like let that fall away or sidestep it, do a little dance and move along. uh, when I was giving that talk in England, I don't give talks very often, to put it mildly.
In,
And
in, in England.
yeah, certainly not in England. I mean, in America, all over the place. No. Um, but I was conscious as I was talking of one part of me saying, getting ready to get nervous, and then the other part of me just sort of like letting it fall away and just allowing some other part to take over and redirecting my attention to maybe something that I wrote. Maybe I would just read directly for a second, or maybe I would just let it slip away and go back into the flow. And it wasn't a perfect talk, but it was a heck of a lot better than a self-conscious Chris, a small Chris, right?
Yes.
It's a
Right.
dance between the small and the big in a way, uh, and the
Nice.
big won out, I think, overall, uh, which is what I needed to do. And that, yeah, it's interesting because that's the way you can live life, right? Not just have conversations, but that's the way you can live, ex approach experience, and um, with a sense of embracing in your bigness, uh, because you can approach firsthand. I can say you can approach experience from a small space, from a small being, and you don't get as much out of it. And uh, yeah, well, that's it. You don't get as much out of it. You don't grow as much. You don't feel as much. It's cluttered. Your experience has to get filtered through more of your opinions and thoughts and fears and the labels that you stick on yourself. Where,
All these little things.
yeah, exactly. And that if you can be, even just being aware of that opens you up a little bit, and then learning to sidestep them.
I suspect when Chris gave the speech and had different sizes of him show up, he touched different people in the room who were at different sizes.
Yeah, that's a really good idea too. That puts a really much more pleasant spin on it than good or bad. More relative and
Pesky language.
yeah.
Victoria, I took up sketching years ago and I've lost it and I feel it beckoning again. But I bought pencils, uh, artist graphite pencils. And I got this idea from Tim Ferriss. So I bought the artist graphite pencils and artist paper, and I did some sketching. And I discovered that when I try to draw anything, I was drawing it from being like 20 feet up in the air. So I'd
Yeah.
sit in the garden and I'd try to draw the house, and it was as if I was 20 feet tall. And then I'd draw a chair, and it was like I'm 10 feet tall. And I went, wow, that's fucked up, man. So I got to explore expressing the universe at ground level, which was cool. Uh, but then one day, so I met black and white was fun, and shading was fun. And then Victoria bought me colored uh, pastels, uh, yeah, crayons for grown-ups, and it blew my mind, and I couldn't do it anymore. Uh, I suspect I'm going to go back to doing it again with the colors because I can now play with colors.
Was it too many choices all of a sudden?
No, there was nothing conscious there. It was just the inability to do anything with it.
Yeah.
And now it's like I tell people, because yeah, I can say enough words in different languages to get in trouble. And they'll say, "Well, how many languages do you know?" And I say, "Well, I can butcher three kinds of English. I can butcher Pittsburgh English, redneck English, and Australian English.
Hmm.
Uh, Besides that, I really don't know anything except for the interesting words." And they laugh, but it's true. Uh, it seems like I'm being beckoned to learn little bits more about the way how language is assembled, and how to play in the realm of colors now.
Well, I guess all of that makes you appreciate the depth and the diversity, the richness, whatever of all that stuff. I
You bet.
and it also makes you aware, like uh I don't know what a good analogy is. If someone's throwing things at you, you want to know, you want to be able to see the individual balls or whatever so you can dodge them. But if our thoughts and our labels are causing trouble, we just generally are not aware of them. But if you become aware of them, then you can let them go, or you can choose them more intentionally. When you talk about drawing, is it from 20 feet above? I'm not an artist in that way. So I'm wondering, do you mean like that you inhabit something more when you're closer up to it, or when you draw?
I it's a great question. I just noticed I'd sit in the garden in a chair and try to draw the house, and it was if I was 20 feet taller. Yeah, every line that I drew was like I was above,
Yeah.
and then I realized I get to explore. Uh, there's obviously the house I'm looking at, and there's where I'm trying to draw it from, which is 20 feet higher, I guess. And I get to explore how can I draw it from closer or further away at ground level. I suspect this is happening everywhere all the time for everyone. Uh, and it's been a gift to me. I really, I notice I love big chunks because there's not much of a problem with a big chunk.
Yeah.
Uh, Smaller chunks can invite me to play more. Yeah, it's more, yeah, I can play ping pong at a smaller chunk compared to, oh, that's a game. Yeah, the big chunk of that's a game. All right, that's a game. Cool. But if it's ping pong and I understand the rules or the possibilities of ping pong, I can get out a pair of nunchucks and be Bruce Lee.
Yeah. Yeah, I get it. You have greater facility, or you turn it into something different from in that transfer
Yes.
big to small. Yeah.
I, I remember, this is funny, this is showing up. When I was getting beat to death in the riot and I was hostage, I remember experiencing the entire world uh, and knowing exactly where there were people praying about the uh, the riot situation, and I could hear them. And it's like there were little points on a map of the universe for me, and it was a great way to survive getting uh, the shit kicked out of me, being beat to death.
Yeah.
And I get that that gave a lot to me for a long time, but I also got to get really practical in a lot of ways, and being able to move, yeah, having freedom of chunk size allows me to understand philosophically. Fire is stored sunlight, Chris. It's all stored sunlight. And if I rub two sticks together, that friction unleashes stored sunlight. And I can look at any communication with you or with anyone, and it's the friction that will unleash the stored sunlight. And if we let it, we're going to produce something that will enlighten the world, which is what we're doing now.
And
Uh,
ourselves.
yes. And because we're unleashing the stored sunlight, we are. Uh, but that's a bunch of bullshit if I can't rub two sticks together. Once I learned how to rub two sticks together and make fire, uh, I did that at least 3,000 times in my life so far. And I can do it with all kinds of woods under various conditions. But it's changed how I understand the philosophy because I can rub two sticks together and make fire, and I can teach other people to do that. And if they're given the cosmology of stored sunlight before we rub two sticks together, and they've taken the cosmology in, every communication that they have, every dance they have in life after that is different.
Yes. It's a very neat. Uh, I want to say metaphor, but it's obviously more than a metaphor in a way. And I keep going back to this notion that we don't realize that we are stored sunlight. Um, and the more we can realize that, and that all we have to do is rub two sticks together to let some of it out, the happier we'll
Yes.
be, or the more happier is maybe not the right word, but just the more engaged or open we will be. Uh, and I assume I assume my metaphor is clear enough, but the capacities that we all have are largely untapped, and it doesn't take that much to start tapping them. Just dropping some of the, you
Yes.
know, yeah,
We, it's the sacred drum. We tap on the sacred drum.
sure, yeah, I like that because it's a rhythmic thing, and uh, I don't know, just because there's a rhythm of life and there's a rhythm of how we can live our lives, and when you dance without thinking so much. You let your body do its own thing with the rhythm. You let your soul do the thing with its rhythm, and then the magic comes out, the sunlight comes out without trying so hard.
Yeah. As you're talking, I'm noticing there's different sizes of me that can be the woods that rub together. Uh, and I can listen to you from the different sizes, and that can be different fibers that can feed that fire.
Tell me more.
I'm waiting for it. So you mention it, and I'm as interested as you are. I don't suspect I do downloads. I don't know what that means. It seems like I open the possibilities, and I get to notice how's what I got going on with what you got going on with what you just requested. Uh, how does it dance? Uh,
No, I think I hear you. I think I yeah. I'm asking for something kind of intellectual, I guess, and some of it is a sensation. And
I think it's cool because for the life of me, I can't go to intellectuals fast as you do. Uh, and I'm fascinated by how you do that and who you are and what your size is when you do that. And so you're going to bring something out that I normally wouldn't bring out. And that's the fire of you and me.
yeah, yeah. It's funny because uh, sometimes I'm intellectually trying to translate pictures that come into my head.
Yes, nice. It's lovely that you notice that you do that.
Yeah. Well, we were talking once. I've used this analogy before, or not analogy, this example when I talked to clients before, but I was admiring your coaching style and who you were, and I really couldn't put it into words, but I was just getting these images of spaceships circling the earth, and I still don't know exactly why those were coming to my head, but they were so clear. Like something was trying to say, this is what he is, or this is what he's like, or this is what he's doing. And at that time I couldn't get it, but it did have something to do with vastness, because I was in my imagination, in my mind's eye, I was kept getting these images of the planet Earth. I'm in space and I'm looking at these spaceships circling the Earth. It was strange. Unless you've got something to tell me about yourself that I don't know.
I love how you just shared it almost in the language that your protagonist shares it
Yeah,
in. He has these experiences and they've got to go through the filter of him.
yeah.
Uh, nice.
I suspect a lot of us think like that. Or if you backtrack your thinking far enough, you'll realize that it's rather strange. Uh, that
Nice.
how exactly does that work? I don't know, but that makes it possibly more fluid. Uh, um, and then you don't even have to be at the mercy of it as much. You can just be aware of the mystery of it, which is, um, you know,
Nice.
you know,
I
life's
really, I really wanted to do this particular call with you without them seeing us. To so when I before I reached out to you, I thought the call needs to have mystery in it. Uh, and if they don't see us, I suspect it'll add more mystery because I suspected what we are going to do. Uh, Besides me using the word suspect a lot, yeah, was to explore some mysterious things like us.
Yeah. Well, not looking at you as we talk or at myself opens up my mind a little bit more. It allows me to look at whatever images are coming out as we're
Yes.
talking, get through thoughts. So that was a good call. No pun intended.
So the nature of humor tends to be expansive to me,
Yeah.
and it tends to show up in threes. Uh, so does a good joke, but humor is different than joke in that uh, it's not a joke. It's the humor. It's the it's the awaiting for what's been beckoning to show up.
Yeah, I hear you. I get it. It's an interesting distinction, the difference between humor and a joke. Humor's like a vibe, or humor's a
Yes,
being. Um, and it is lighter and more expansive, right? Because I guess humor can be relational. You can find humor. Uh, a joke is relational too, but a joke is like, or it depends on certain ironic things or a punchline, that. But humor, like you can just feel humor in the experience of life without fully even understanding why it's humorous. You can just have a sense of buoyancy or openness, as you say. Yeah.
nice.
Nothing wrong with jokes, though.
Oh, I love. Yeah, that's the joke, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're lovely to share space with.
Yeah. Same thing. Same. And like I say, it's it's been an art which I'm still mastering or working on to just be present without concern uh, for filling the space. Uh, and then that creates its own thing. Uh,
I really wanted the space. I avoided filling the space for a while. My friend Jody Patton used to come visit me because Jody was a very anxious fella, and at the time I wasn't because I was just so vast. And we would sit on my porch on this little love seat that was barely enough room for two people to sit. So I'm an ex-cop, retired prison guard, doing my thing, and Jody's an ex-felon
hmm.
doing his thing. And yeah, he's selling some dope on the side and doing his thing. But whenever he needed nothing, he'd come and sit with nothing. And we'd sit on the porch for an hour or two or four, and then he'd leave. And it was good fun for both of us because he'd bring a lot, and I'd have nothing and everything. And at that point, I had lots and lots of peace, but I was missing the adventure of joy. Time goes on, I end up coming to Australia, and I meet Victoria, and I discovered new levels of joy. Uh, Joy having a lot of surfing in it, the ups and the downs, the big waves and the little waves. Joy having the depths of scuba diving uh,
Yeah.
uh, versus I was a vast ocean, and now I get to be a vast ocean and a lot of waves and tides and depths and the thermocline.
I like that. I like that because it goes further with the metaphor, but touching on the different aspects of the experience of life.
Mm.
Uh, and again, it's like if you think of the dip, You think of the ups and downs, and the down becomes just a dip. You'll ride the wave to something else if you don't get stuck in the dip, which a lot of us can do. But yeah, no, I like
I,
that.
I I've never done that a couple hundred times today,
Yeah.
and that's humor.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Can
well, I
I
have something to say, but I've lost it again. So you please go ahead.
can I read something from your book?
Sure, sure, of course.
Page 312. I can't. I don't get it. You wrote a book with hundreds of pages. I've written a couple. I've probably written. Well, I've written thousands of pages of stuff, but not in one book. I'm so impressed. Ready?
Yep.
Page 312. The very act of awareness imposes a measure of order on the universe. I'm going to skip a little bit. Expanded awareness brings greater order. Oh, wow.
Hmm.
My awareness has expanded since the beginning of our call an hour ago.
Yeah, it's been really great. Yeah. Thanks for quoting that part. That was a, I can almost remember the moment that I realized that. I used to, this may be silly, but I used to think, why the hell do people like do gardens? Why do they go out and like uh why not just let it all grow over, and why tend gardens? It's a very young opinion of me. But first of all, then I somehow realized, first of all, they're sort of bringing order, not in a bad way. They're bringing their attention and their awareness to what's in their surroundings, and they're touching it. They're digging their hands into the earth, and they're participating in it, and they're engaging in it, and that like unleashes or opens the floodgates a little bit to the flow of life. And so it's totally different than what I was thinking. Of course, it's beautiful to pay attention and to participate in uh, in life, and that sort of sense of awareness bringing order is just it's not like a constrictive order. It's an opening up. It's a flow. It's a lovely, a garden is, for example, a lovely frame for life to flow into, and for a different kind of uh, a different kind of order, I guess. But it's you know what I mean? Am I
Can I give you homework? Because I know you're an avid reader.
go for it.
Michelle Small Wright. I couldn't tell you how to spell her name, but it's not the normal way for any of those except for the word small.
Okay.
She wrote a book. She wrote a couple books. One of them was Behaving as If the God in All Life Matters.
Okay.
And she has the definition of a garden. Would you love to have her definition of a garden?
Yeah.
Her definition of a garden is something like I, a garden is where man and nature dance.
Yeah. That's very much more succinct and lovely than my protracted. Um,
But you and her both gave us different gifts.
yeah. No, I found her book. I'll take a look at it. Thank you.
I know you would. But before the call was over.
Michelle, Machaelle,
Yeah.
small, right?
Yes.
URIT.
Yes.
Great.
There we go.
Plug out to Behaving as If the God in All Life Mattered. That's a brilliant title. It's beautiful. Thank you.
I came across her book and I saw the cover and I cried for about 2 hours.
Because it's her hand, and she's holding a little
Yeah, a
mouse.
critter.
Here, yeah, a little critter. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
After crying for 2 hours, I called her up and ordered the book. Couldn't get it anywhere else. I had to get it from her.
She's found a measure of success. It's on Amazon now. So
Nice. Hmm. I want to thank you for the time and the space today, Chris.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me on. The master
I,
of ceremonies, the master of Neville Goddard, the master of so many things, or at least the dancer with so many things.
I just think when people call me a Neville Goddard expert, I sort of giggle. I,
Yeah, like
I
it.
just, I just find I'm fascinated with. I love Neville's work because it seems like Neville was fascinated with something like what I am, and I'm fascinated with the human expression of the divine experience.
Yeah.
And if I could put that into one word, it would be expansion, which automatically invites contraction. And it just seems like we're the heart. And if we are the heart, uh, the sacred heart, we're going to expand and contract and expand and contract and expand and contract. Uh, why not?
Yeah, well, it's been. I hear you. That you're not just quote unquote Neville. And one of the things that it's been a gift to get to work with you and whatnot because there's so much going on there, and if so many different angles and to approach one thing or another that it's a pleasant trip. So
Yeah.
thank you.
My absolute pleasure, Chris. If we could share one more thing, if you'd like to give the people listening to this one more thing, what would you give them?
Buy my book? No, just kidding. No, thank you to anybody who's listened through the silences, and thank you, 20, for having me on. It's wonderful.
I would love if they bought your book. I would. I. It's The Dreaming Gods by Christopher R. Nelson, available on Amazon
And elsewhere now.
and elsewhere. It's a good book. I see you got a QR code on the back too. I didn't know you could put a QR code where the ISBN is. That's cool.
You know, Amazon put that on there, but I suspect that's becoming a much more common thing.
All those rascals. Good on them.
Well, thank you very much. And I hope to talk to you soon. I'm sure we will.
I'm sure I'll talk to you in a minute if you want to.
Yeah, yeah. Go for it.
All right. Love you, Chris. Thank you so much.
Thank you.